That's kind of my skill set is empathy and connection and really helping others. And that's what the Coast Guard does.
Man.
This is Charlie Mike, the podcast. Veterans helping veterans, talking about things happening in the veteran community, things we've experienced and overcome, such as addictions, PTSD, depression, legal trouble, and we also promote veteran-owned businesses. If you're talking about it, we're talking about it. This is Charlie Mike, the podcast.
On, everybody, welcome back to our first official welcome home, Charlie Mike, the podcast. As always, I'm your host, Raul, and your co-host is William.
Yo, what's up, y'all? So glad to be back. It's every time we do this, it's a little bit different now. Like, how can we make it just a little bit better?
And it's going to keep being that way.
Yeah.
Until it's not going to be. Yeah.
Yeah. I know.
Improve every time. What man, what you been doing?
Man, life has been good and we've been blessed. So we're here from the Pearland Podcast Studio, which is just south of Houston. And this is Charlie Mike Studio. This is our headquarters where we do everything out of. And it's going to take a little while for us to get used to this routine, like having our own plays, having folks come in. You're actually the second guest we have come on this week, which is surreal because we were like every week, okay, who can we get to come on? And now it's like, hey, we actually have folks lined up.
He's a third or fourth guest.
Oh yeah, that's right. I was talking about for just Charlie Mike, the podcast.
Yeah. We're doing a lot of exciting things. We're excited about where we're headed, and golly,
yeah, we're glad to have y'all with us. And without further ado, we do have a special guest today. His name is Mr. Jake. How do you say your last name? Is it Trione?
Trione,
Mr. Jake Trione. I met Jake about a year ago, and I've just been a fan of yours. I follow you on your socials, and the more and more we talk, the more I see like our lives are paralleled. You did spend time in the Coast Guard, which is amazing because Houston has such a wide reach, and like the number one service here is the Coasties, correct?
I would say, when it comes to the amount of units, I don't know if it's amount of personnel, but amount of units for sure, the amount of active units for sure.
So you spent some time in the Coast Guard. Well, how long total? I'd seen 17 on one bio.
So I'm actually still in the reserve.
Got you.
I spent 13 and a half on active duty and then transitioned to the reserve. I got drill weekend this weekend. So
Nice.
I just hit 18. So.
Wow, awesome. And then not only that, but when I met you was with the Veteran Business Chamber. And so you have your own business as well.
Yeah, so I own a gym called Tri Fitness Gym, co-own, and started in 2017, and basically just transitioned from active duty and started getting to work, trying to help more people live good lives and stay connected and enjoy what it is every day through movement.
Right. I love that. Every day through movement.
Let's go back a little bit. We want to learn more about your business, of course, but I want to talk a little bit about your 13 and a half years in active duty. So was that all local?
No, so I actually enlisted out of South Alabama.
Alabama.
I'm from Daphne, Alabama, down by the beach.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of beautiful area down there. It really is. The Eastern Shore across from Mobile. And first station was actually Galveston. So I was on a ship out of Galveston, a 210-foot vessel. And most of our operations were in the South Caribbean, some in South America, but mostly the Caribbean. And then I went back and forth between Baton Rouge, went to some training in Virginia for a while for basically what we call our rating or your MOS, and then came back and was stationed in Baton Rouge, Texas City, and Houston.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So when most people think of Coast Guard, they think of drug bust and catching pirates. How true is that?
It's pretty true. Depend on where you were stationed. So nowadays, not everybody goes to a ship.
Okay.
And so I joined in 04, and for me, I didn't necessarily want to go to a ship. I didn't know much about a ship. I didn't realize the Coast Guard had boats that big. I came out of Mobile Bay and I just saw all these little boats. And then they're like, you're going to Galveston, and like Galveston Beach. And then I get there and I'm like, they call this a beach?
Especially coming from that Alabama coast.
Yeah, it's like we have a little hidden gem down there, man. And then I get to that beach, and I got a whole bunch of resilient stories, but like I was so nervous, like leaving boot camp, man. I got reverted at boot camp. So I barely got through. And then I'm coming down to get on the ship, and I go down one ferry road and get on the ferry. And the Coast Guard base is off of Ferry Road. So I'm on the ferry going across the Bolivar and turn around and see my unit. And it's like, what do you do? Like me, this little, hometown kid, call back like my mom, like, what do I do, mom? Like they're gonna kick me out already. Like I'm gonna be 10 minutes late for muster. And like it's just kind of indicative of the rest of my career. But we did a lot of anti-migrant, anti-drug patrols in the South Caribbean. So we didn't have as much interaction with, whenever I was on board, with drugs, but the Dauntless, the vessel I was on, it's they called WMEC, White Medium Endurance Cutter 624. It was basically had the most drug busts at one point in the Coast Guard because it was down in Miami during the heyday.
Oh, dang.
So it had on the side of our vessels, whenever you have certain amount of busts or certain amount of pounds, you get like a little, the marijuana leaf, or you get the little cocaine symbol.
For real?
Oh yeah. So we just had them stacked across.
Hey, I'm gonna be looking for that.
Yeah, like the colleges where they put the hits on there, the hit stickers.
Exactly.
Like, hey, man, you stood out.
I've never paid attention to it.
Yeah, you should check that out. And the Dauntless, you can look it up. I think it was like 84 maybe or something. They busted everybody left and right. And but when I got on, I was a Coast Guard, what they call a cutter swimmer. So I was one of the rescue swimmers for the cutter itself. And that's where I did a lot of my stuff. And we had a lot in different, incidents and issues with a lot of anti-illegal migration. So we were trying to basically block any of that illegal migration, putting in patrols and stuff to try to be in between that. So that was a lot of what I dealt with when I was on the Dauntless.
Yeah, man, that's a lot, man. And when people say illegal immigration, they don't understand that that's people from all over the, not just from southern border. It's everywhere.
Yeah. And one of the things a lot of people don't know too is because Cuba was communist, we had a law called wet foot, dry foot. So if they got on any U.S. soil, on any island that was considered U.S. soil, they automatically got basically a chance at citizenship.
Oh, wow.
Because they got asylum. So, and that was a big thing, is we had a lot of people who were trying to go through and claim to be Cuban, citizens and all this stuff so they could get asylum from Haiti and all the other nations around, Dominican Republic. And most of the time, though, it's basically illegal smugglers.
Yeah,
and they charge these people $10,000 US. And that to most of these people, that's a lifetime's worth savings. And they'll have a vessel of 42 people on a 22-foot boat. And it's only like 60 something miles from Cuba straight to Miami, straight into past the Bahamas. And so they'll try to just jet over there and get to land and get the people on the ground. Yeah. And a lot of times a lot of people perish because they flip over, they wreck, and they try to run. So it's pretty intense down there for sure. I don't know how bad it is now, but 18 years ago it was.
I could imagine, especially like having to work the coast in the 80s, man, because I know they were getting a lot of that stuff from Cuba, and it was the Pablo Escobar heyday. Yeah, Jesus. Yeah, I'm a big Narcos fan.
Yeah, I've never really watched much of that. No, man. I honestly am. I'm just on my grind, dude.
Like nothing wrong with it.
I'm just extremely dedicated to my mission. It comes back to humanity, and even starting when I did on that vessel and seeing these people willing to give up what they were to come to my country, that opened my eyes as a young man.
Yeah,
if they're willing to give their life to get to this country, I'm going to do everything I can to protect it, preserve it, and live up to what I believe I can, because I was given this opportunity to be born in the United States.
Man, I love the way that was just said.
What age do you think that was, that epiphany came about?
I would say 22 to 23.
Wow.
Yeah. I went through a lot, man. I got masted twice in my first 9 months in the Coast Guard.
I don't know what that means.
So basically like court martial.
Oh,
I got unit court martial. Basically, they call it captain's mast. And I came from a little bit of a challenging childhood, and I had a hard time accommodating to responsibility and to be told what to do all the time.
Yeah.
I'd kind of run my life since I was 12, but I knew I had to do something. I had to get out of the town I was in and the situation I kind of grew up in. and the military was very hard for me to transition into a lot of what was going on. But I always had the passion and the heart and the work ethic, but I was just my energy is nuts. Like I'm just nonstop all the time. ADHD.
I can see that. Yeah. You just seem like you're an energetic person.
Yeah, and like when it's healthy, it's great. When
Yeah.
it's unhealthy,
Oh,
it's
definitely.
the most destroying thing
Yeah.
that you can actually produce, within a soul.
Yeah, it's a gift and a curse, man. It can be. Yeah, it definitely can be. Especially golly, man. That's amazing. So you're in the reserves. You've been in the reserves for 4.5 years now?
Yeah, 4.5 years.
And still going. What are you trying to do? You gonna get to the 20?
Yeah, I'll at least get to 20, and we'll just see how it goes.
Yeah.
And I'm an E7 now, and I love the leadership aspect of things. I love to try to help people to see what they're capable of and what they do, what they're capable of doing in the Coast Guard and also in civilian life. And so, you know, two days out of the month and 2 weeks out of the year it really doesn't take that much out of me. And every now and then, whenever we have a big issue, I get to get called up and use my skills. And I think to me, it's a blessing in a lot of ways. It never falls on the best weekend.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
It's just you never get to where it's just completely convenient. But it's still it's kind of like goes back to that pride thing. When I put my uniform on, I understand the responsibility that comes with it, and my people are my responsibility. So whoever works for me and my team, I'm the lead petty officer or chief petty officer for the incident management division for Sector Houston. So basically, what that means is if there's a spill, like a small oil spill, or there's a release, or there's an incident that needs to be either managed by us as the Coast Guard or either oversaw, if there's like a spill or something going on, then we go out and we make sure that whoever's responding is doing it safely and properly.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And it's really involving maritime transportation.
Mhm.
So Shell, Oxy, any of the big companies. So they all basically follow a set of laws that the Coast Guard enforces. And in incident management, we go out and make sure if anything happens within our jurisdiction, that they take care of it properly.
Right. Okay. I didn't know that was
Yeah.
that was a thing. That's awesome. Though.
I'm considered my rating as a marine science technician.
Okay.
But it would,
It's
marine science
Yeah, that
technician.
sounds good. You never thought you'd hear marine and science. At the same-
For all you Marines out there listening.
Yeah. Hoorah. I'm gonna get jumped.
Nah,
Jeez,
it's a cool job, man. I didn't know the Coast Guard really did it, but
Yeah.
after 2.5 years on the ship, I had to get away from the ship life. I couldn't handle it.
Mm.
Ship life was rough, so I chose a job that basically got me to land.
Yeah, shoot, I couldn't. We speak to a few Navy guys and submarine and things like that. I'm like, man, more power to you.
Yeah,
I couldn't do it. If there's no way that if there's a dangerous situation and I can run some sort of way, I'm not involved. You know what I mean?
yeah. Looking back, there's a lot of things that I'm sure y'all did too in the military that you look back and you're like, man, I cannot believe I did that.
It's true.
I cannot believe
but I
we-
could always run.
That's true. That's true.
And so what drew you to the Coast Guard?
So for me, growing up in Mobile, growing up on the other side of Mobile Bay, I saw Coast Guard all over the place.
All right.
And I honestly knew that I could save lives, but I honestly didn't know if I could take one. And that was a big deal for me because I've always been more of a very empathetic and loving person. And I wanted to fight, but I wanted to fight for something, not against something.
Yeah.
And I wanted to serve. I wanted to serve at the deepest level that I could. And that's really where I found the Coast Guard. And it really was, one of those things that's hard to accept because you always, you're like, I want to go, rah, and,
Yeah.
be, aggressive and stuff. But I just knew in my heart that that's not who I was. And, it took a lot of overcoming ego and things like that over time to accept it. But, I'm really more of a warrior for love than I am for fight. So that's just
I like that.
that's kind of my skill set is empathy and connection and really helping others. And that's what the Coast Guard does.
Man, that's I love the way that was said. That meant you got an ad coming soon. Yeah,
That's great.
Geez. So you've always been into fitness of some sort?
So I'm not the typical fitness guy. I'm not. fitness saved my life in a lot of ways, and never been very. It's kind of funny. Today has been really kind of a funny day just to have this conversation. I haven't gotten the chance yet, but I just want to say thank y'all first. Thanks for having me here.
No, it's
You kind of went into the conversations, but I've been looking forward to having this conversation for a while, so I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys setting this up and putting your effort in, and putting your money down to try to share more about the veterans and what we can do for each other. So
we appreciate you
and-
acknowledging that.
Yeah,
Yeah, man.
acknowledge.
Thank you.
yeah, and kind of getting further into that. So fitness for me is people say it's a way of life, but to me, movement is healing, and I use the word movement for a purpose. And because people think of fitness and they think of some guy who's just
Yeah.
pushing himself, or some
Yeah.
girl who's just completely lean, and like fitness is really maintaining homeostasis, and it's maintaining our body's ability to actually operate at its highest potential.
Mm.
And for me, I had like I said, I had a fairly challenging childhood in different ways, and we can get into that if you want to. But exercise was my medicine. And my cousin's birthday was yesterday, and I sent him a happy birthday message, and he sent me back a picture of our class picture from 6th grade. And my phone's over there. I would show y'all, but I was heavy. I was a big kid.
Yeah.
And in 6th grade, at that point, you kind of should have outgrown it. So I was still, carrying a lot of weight at that point. And that it was like I saw myself in that moment, and that's when I picked up running. So, and I tell these stories to my clients all the time, and because I've been in fitness for so long and been after it, but I would just run until I felt better. And so
I love that.
Yeah.
And
It's true.
it's weird, but I just ran until I felt better. And the problem was I'd have to get home.
This is where the movie Forrest Gump comes in.
You know,
I'm sure
there
there's
you
plenty
go.
of references
There
there,
you
right?
go. Run, Jake, run. And, but
I'm tired.
I would have gone to Auburn, not Alabama, though. So
Yeah.
that's the difference there. But no. So the big thing was that I realized that, man, I feel better when I do this, and it made me feel empowered. Like I had a little bit of control. My whole childhood had been kind of out of control, and a lot of things had fallen apart, and I never felt like anybody was actually there. But I could do that for myself and maintain, homeostasis, both mentally, physically, and spiritually. And that's where fitness came in. And going through high school, I was never very athletic, but I loved working out. So I learned to enjoy it and do it, and it made me feel like I actually had some, like I said, control, confidence, and after a workout, you're never upset.
Yeah.
You're never like,
That's
man,
true.
I can't believe I just pumped all that iron. You walk out of there looking for somebody to see.
Yeah.
Like, did you see me? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's that way.
Yeah. And so I just knew that there was so much more to it, and I'm just so much more of a mental guy, and there's so much more. That's where my faculty is. But I knew that when I felt good physically, I felt good mentally. So I just really early on made that connection in the two, and so it became my coping mechanism. It became the way that I felt better and the way that I healed myself when I wasn't in a good spot, and that's, I think, a big thing that I try to get through to all of my clients is like, we have no mirrors in my gym by purpose. I don't really talk about weight loss much. I'll talk about muscle gain. I'll talk about a little bit about fat loss, but it's not about weight loss. That has so many negative connotations and so many barriers that you can never honestly fully achieve it without the rest. So if you're not focused on movement, you're not focused on eating things that make you actually feel good, if you're not focused on a balanced lifestyle that actually is refreshing, makes you feel in control, you're never going to lose weight. So just saying I want to go to the gym for weight loss, you're kind of already behind the 8 ball.
Yeah.
You're already kind of failing. And that's why most gyms don't work. That's why most people don't go. 9% of the United States used a gym membership in 2018.
Golly.
9%.
9?
9% used it.
Wow.
I think the other stat was like 22 had a gym membership. Only 9% actually showed up and used it.
Yeah. That ain't making me feel bad about myself.
No,
Because you're still paying for that gym.
Yeah.
well, and the thing that you have to know is that, like, our bodies are meant to move.
Yeah.
We're levers. Like, we are a system of levers that are designed to pick things up heavier than us and do work. Like, we're built to work. Without a mission, I mean, Charlie Mike, right? I mean,
Right.
like, without a mission, we just fall apart,
Mhm.
both spiritually, emotionally, physically. And so for me, it was like, how do I help people not to continue to fall apart? And like, fitness did that for me, and I wanted to do that for others by showing them that it was much more than aesthetics or sports performance. Like, and that's kind of my thing. And the fact that I was able to become a a cutter rescue swimmer. That was the thing that helped me in the Coast Guard. That really gave me a lot of early on. I had some pretty challenging situations. Had to recover some bodies and try to save a couple and things like that, and it gave me a lot of ownership. Like,
So cutter is
That's the
jumping
ship.
from the
That's
okay.
no, that's
you're
the
on
ship. Yeah, so it's not coming from the Gila. So
Okay.
that's an aviation survival technician, and I was not that. Well,
Okay.
it's like saying you're everybody's a pilot in the Navy, right? Everybody
Yeah.
wants to claim to be an AST in the Coast Guard.
Oh, okay,
I
okay.
did want to be an AST, but then after getting masted twice, I quickly got told I would not be allowed to go to that school.
Really? Wow.
And so there's a little heartache there. I'll be honest. I've never seen that movie. I can't remember the name of it anymore. The one with Ashton Kutcher.
Oh, yeah.
I refused to watch it because of that.
Which one?
Where he goes to the school to be a diver, a rescue
Oh,
swimmer. Yeah.
okay. I'm gonna
Yeah,
check
I
it
can't
out.
remember
I can't remember the other partner he went with.
Well, Kevin Costner
Kevin
was in it.
Costner,
Was the master chief
Yeah.
who was the actual, the instructor of the school. But
Yeah.
so I have a little, I'm a little butthurt by that. I'll be honest. But
I guess for us too, like I was in the Army and the infantry guy at the 82nd, and it was like, you got to go be a ranger. Why don't you go be a ranger? And I'm like, well, it's not that I didn't want to go be a ranger. It's not like I didn't, put in the effort.
yeah,
It's just didn't work out that way.
yeah.
It's not in the
know?
cards for everybody.
Yeah.
You gotta be a special type of person to
Yep.
do those kind of
You know,
things.
and
Yeah.
granted, I probably could have put more effort into
Yeah.
it, but it is what it is. It's in the
Yeah.
past now.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing too is just making sure once you're at that level of understanding that going back to fitness a little bit, that it's a part of maintaining a healthy and balanced lifestyle. It's not just trying to prove yourself or trying to look a certain way, and that's great too.
Mhm.
But if you want to maintain a healthy and overall balanced homeostasis to where your body, your blood sugar, your A1C, your heart rate, your blood pressure, all those things balance out, you've got to move a certain amount.
Right.
I think that's a big aspect that we have to.
So
alter.
so it's different. Your actual gym is a little bit different than most because of your I guess your clients.
Yeah.
And how did you begin with that?
Yeah, so Try Fitness Gym, it's Try because it's mind, body, soul. It kind of comes back to my first business was Try Effect, and basically the way that I describe it is until I was able to heal my body enough to actually listen to what my brain was trying to tell me, I was never actually able to follow the path that my soul was trying to get me to follow.
Hmm.
So that's where the Try kind of comes from. And overall, I started working while I was on active duty. So I started working at a local gym in 2000. Like I said, I'm full of energy. And I realized I wasn't doing good stuff with my energy. Like I needed to take it somewhere. I needed to do something with it. And I was like, man, I just love fitness. I'm going to go help other people do this, make a little extra money. I was thinking I'm going to buy a boat. That was like one of my first thoughts when I was going to work at the gym. It's like, I'm just going to go buy a boat so I can ski or something. And so I go in there and I basically went in there on the interview and told them all this stuff I want to do. Like, I want to do this and all this, and I'm going to help people. I'm going to build an app and I'm going to do all these things that are going to help people to, live a better life. And so they're like, this kid's crazy. Let's pay him. So they bring me on and say, okay. So within a year, I was the personal training manager at this gym while I was on active duty. So I was basically working about 85 hours a week. I was going in at 4:00 in the morning. I was training 2 to 3 clients. I was going to Coast Guard from about 7:30 to 4:30, coming back and training more clients, 5:30, 6:30, 7:30, 8:30 at night. And all my clients were kind of over the age of 50. And I've always been an old soul. My family had an old Italian meat market in Delhi growing up, and my dad bankrupted twice. But so I learned a lot from there about
Right.
business, and but I'd always been in the community, like so that's where everybody came for the day.
Right.
Back then there weren't 50,000 places to choose from,
Yeah.
so all the guys before work would come get coffee, and so I was always around adults. I was always treated like an adult. I had to learn how to work really early, in my life. I was, on the grind at 7 years old. I was working. So all these things kind of stack up. And then I'm in this gym and most of my clients are over 50. They just are. And so I start looking around. I'm like, there's nothing serving these people. There's nobody actually putting together good programs for our 50 plus population. And so that's kind of where I actually went to a couple of meetings up in Houston. They used to have this thing, I think it's called Houston Health 2.0. It was like this group out of the Houston Technology Center. And, I'm from a small town in South Alabama. So for me to go in there and do some of that work with them, it was like, I'm going into this big city and like big eyes. And I was like, I'm going to change the world. It felt good. I was on fire. And like I would just like park, before I got into the city and look at the skyline and just think about what was possible.
I love doing that.
Yeah, me too, man.
Me too.
I do it often.
And it's funny because we're, Pearland isn't where we are now isn't that big, but it really has grown a whole lot. But I remember I grew up just south of downtown, and we kept moving further and further south, and just seeing the big city. It's still that way for me when I
Yeah.
drive down there. I didn't even interrupt you. What year was this that you were?
2012, 2013. It was right when I kind of made that decision in 2013. And
Like, this is what I want to do. I want to do more with fitness. And so you said about a year left or so on active duty.
no, I actually had 3 more years on
Oh
my
wow.
yeah. I knew, and that was the biggest thing. And I came, like I said, my dad bankrupted his business. We had a bunch of tax problems, stuff like that. My mom and him divorced when I was 5, and my stepdad and my mom were real poor. Grew up, kind of in a very poor environment. So like, had a lot of money insecurity, right? So to leave the Coast Guard, I was making around 70 a year at this point. I was, an E6. To make that decision to walk away from, a paycheck was like big, but I'd learned, I had learned a lot, and learned a lot in my dad's business. I was always a hard worker. Nobody ever outworked me in the office, even in the Coast Guard. I was always working. I was willing to do more than most. And I saw that most people weren't. And I was like, you know what? If I'm going to work this hard and I'm going to try to make this big of a difference and it's not going to be respected, there are multiple things, but that was one of the things. And then I just saw how I could change people's lives. I mean, when you literally work for somebody in an hour and everything about their physiology is different, like it's the most empowering thing in the world.
Yeah, I could imagine. That's yeah.
And so that's basically in 2013, I was the personal training manager at that gym, like I said, and it just kind of continued to stack up all the hours. And I was like, there has to be something more. I have to make my decision. So, I prayed on it. I really got back into my faith in 2013, and I was really trying to figure out what to do with my life and where to go. And as soon as I said yes, it was like I got wings.
Mm.
It literally felt like I just got wings. Whenever I said, okay, I'm going to do this, God, I'm going to start a gym. I'm going to help people. I'm going to find a way to do it right. And that was 2013. And I went to work.
Yeah.
Like a Tasmanian devil, dude. Like anything I could find, I ate it up. The first thing I did was I paid like $3,500 to go out to San Diego. This guy named Todd Durkin, and he owns a gym called Fitness Quest 10. The only reason I found him is because he was Drew Brees' personal trainer, and I'm a Saints fan. So I'm like, who is this guy? And then, Facebook did its thing. And like 2 days later, I'm seeing these ads for like a 3.5 day, mentorship in San Diego. And like, I'm going to do this, and I'm like, so I'd saved up like $3,000+ and paid out of my pocket, flew out to San Diego. I was way in over my head. I was in there with people who had 10 gyms, and, I'd been in the industry for 10, 20 years, but I just felt at home.
Yeah.
And it was just like, man, these are my people.
Mm.
And, I wanted to get up front and talk. I was like, this guy's talking, I'm going to talk. I was like so pumped up to share my energy. I've broken through and I've done this, and so ever since that day, man, I've just, followed what I think God called me to, and it just get up and put one foot in front of the other. And, you to come back to the gym, that's why it's different. But yeah, we focus on people over the age of 50 and people who need a higher level of support. And I don't tell anybody, no, I got a lot of younger guys, and it comes down to you have to have a niche or you can't market.
Yeah.
Like, so if you don't have a market, you're not going to be able to actually advertise effectively, if you don't have something to aim at. And so that's really why we focused on that niche. But, I think everybody needs to hear what I have to say when it comes to the way you approach fitness, because most people leaving the military or leaving sports performance, stuff like that, your body can't keep that up.
Nah.
And you have to realize that you don't have to kill yourself.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I didn't believe that. And then a lot of the people that we're looking up to, they're not doing it just by running and lifting weights.
Yeah.
Right? They got a lot of extra support that may be pharmaceutical, and it's hard to match all that, and so we have to accept that as well.
And one thing I noticed too, you talked about having folks to look up to, even the folks that we see on, Instagram, or just doing the most, that's their life, right?
Yeah.
That's how they get paid, is through that content stuff. And I think about that as well. Like, yeah, they have an hour and a half because it's scheduled on their schedule, and that's part of what they post. So I try to keep that my own consideration. Like, I'm not there yet. I can stick to my 30 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever it may be.
And it enhances every other aspect of your life. Like, our tagline is functional fitness for life, right? We don't live to work out. We work out to live, to actually bring energy. and, into what we're doing. And I had to realize that for myself. Like I have to give up a lot of the workout time I used to have because my mission's bigger than me sitting in a gym for 2 hours, and if I want to start a business, I can't work out for 4 hours a day. I'm just not going to be able to make that amount of time actually and be successful. And a lot of people that you see that are selling themselves, their genetics are great. Like bottom line, like mine weren't. I had to fight that. Most of ours aren't great.
Yeah.
Arnold looked like, most of us will never look when he was 15. Like, I mean,
but that was a lot of help though, wasn't it?
when he was 15 though, he's already jacked.
Oh,
And
okay.
then he powered on top of it.
Oh, all right.
But he did.
I got to check it out. I ain't
Oh,
seen
go
it.
look him up.
And-
Yeah. I mean, and
He's got a great story too.
it is a great
Great-
story.
great story.
Yeah. And I have nothing against taking steroids or whatever else you want to do, is if you agree that that's part of your journey. And
Mhm.
I'm not saying that, but most people aren't going to do that. So don't stare at somebody who does and think you're going to get there in a gym. You're not.
Right.
You're going to have to go to your pharmaceutical doctor, get that, and then go to the gym 17 times a day and then eat only chicken and broccoli. And
yeah.
I mean, those guys work their tail off to be
Yeah.
where they're at. I
Right.
mean,
Like literally eating only chicken and broccoli.
yeah. And it's true.
Yeah.
I respect them.
What's his name? CT Fletcher. Oh, that guy's funny too.
Ronnie Coleman,
Yeah.
all those
And
guys,
he
man.
talks about it like, I don't. What do you mean taste? Taste because it doesn't taste good. Like
No.
eat it.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter what it tastes like.
So you went out to San Diego
Yeah.
and you took part of this
3.5 day mentorship.
mentorship. You
Yeah.
found it. You found it, like,
Dude,
more
yeah,
than
blew my
beneficial.
mind, and so then after that, I just started eating it up. And I said, what do I have to do to be great? I said, I got to find the greats and learn from them. That's how I'm going to do it. And
I
that's
like
what I started doing. I spent every dime that I had to learn. I mean, I could name a lot of people, but nobody probably know who they are. The guy that used to be the head strength and conditioning coach for the Boston Red Sox. He has a certification. I went and got it. Guy named Martin Rooney. I'm trying to think of the guy right now. The guy that got the most fights in UFC. He trains him for free. This guy was a
Mhm.
physical therapist. He started a gym called Training for Warriors. They're all over the world now. But he basically has trained that guy who just basically hit his, like, I don't know how many fights in the UFC, but he's got the most. And I just went to Dallas 2 weeks ago, or no, Austin, couple weeks ago to go see him talk and present. But you got to go find those people in your industry who are doing what you're doing and learn from them.
Right.
And that's what
Yeah.
I started spending all of my money on. Went back to college, started using tuition assistance, and just going after it as much as I could to learn about exercise science and about people and about lifestyle and habits and mindset and all those things.
So it's tryfitnessgym.com. And what is is it effect?
Yeah, TriEffect. So kind of like I described earlier, TriEffect is kind of my personal coaching piece.
Okay.
And I do that for a lot of people one-on-one. If you're at a level where you're like, I'm ready to go to the next level of my life, I'm ready to take it up a notch. I'm trying to figure out how this path that I'm going to actually be somewhere where, it takes you being different. I think people don't get that. You can't be who you are today and be who you want to be tomorrow. That you can't do it.
Yeah.
Like bottom line, accept that, right? And you don't want to be.
Nah,
Nobody wakes up and looks in the mirror and raises their hand and says, I want to be average. If you do, you should get off this podcast.
Yeah,
I mean,
set some
because you're not going to be average. You listen to me for 5 minutes. I mean, that's just the bottom line. Like I'm trying to light this world on fire, man. Like every
Yeah.
day I wake up, and those are the people that sign up for TriEffect. Now, I've coached probably about 15 to 20 people on that. It's a high ticket thing, but it is literally altered I trained this one lady, and she got down to weight she hasn't been at since she had her first child, 42 years, changed her A1C all the way around. She got off all meds for diabetes, had type 2. And things like that. I had one of my best friends, he owns a chain of Chick-fil-A's. He was with me in the Coast Guard. He messaged me 3 days ago, sent me a picture of his body weight. He's under 170 for the first time that he can remember, and just said, thank you for being a part of this journey. And I did that with him too. I mean, he's a go-getter. That guy motivates me. He helped to spark my interest. But that's what TriEffect is about. It's more about trying to say, hey, I'm really ready. I want to go to that next level. So like that's getting on a call, once or twice a week. That's daily emails, making sure that you're making those steps and putting forth that thing. I gave you guys these little koozies, but one of the things on those koozies is we only have the present. That's all we own.
Mhm.
This moment right here.
Right.
And that's a huge realization once you own it. You can't do anything with yesterday or tomorrow. You can't. It doesn't exist. You have to own this moment, and you have to win today. You know, I think and we get caught up in where we want to be, or we get caught up in our past. And that again, you can't be different and stay the same. And I think those are just such big things that we fail on in a lot of ways. And I think that's hard for people to grasp. But once you start to really grasp that, is like, and a lot of things, like I said, are kind of in synergy today. But so Ryan Holiday is a guy who's
Hmm.
stoicism, right? So one of the things I study, he's Daily Stoic. He's one of the books that he has, and it has like little quotes every day. And today, it, the whole thing that was in there was a couple different guys, but the whole thing was about be careful who you surround yourself with, right? And I was coming up here to meet with you guys, and I was like, man, this, we need to, make this something that we actually do for each other to build each other up, right?
Yeah.
And you want to surround yourself with people who inspire you and motivate you and are showing you the path in whatever way that is, and I think that especially for veterans trying to transition, and trying to go to that next level, you had that guy. All of us had one guy that you can remember, at least one, if not more. Hopefully you had more in the service that you were like, man, that dude, if me and him were together, we were going to kill it. Everything was going to be great. We are going to be on time. We could look at each other. We know what we need to do. We can make those steps. And we all deserve that. We deserve that every day. It's not just that we should strive for, we deserve it. And we watch those hype videos at the beginning of football games and all that. You know what? Every morning I'm my own hype video. I'm putting that music on. I'm looking in the mirror and I'm saying, I'm going to crush it. And if I meet somebody today, they're going to get better because they met me.
I could see that, man. Just with you, I envisioned the whole thing.
and think about it though, we deserve that.
Yeah.
Man. They ain't nothing special. They're running around chasing pigskin on a field. And I get it. I'm a sports jockey and all that stuff too, and love that stuff. But still, it's like you have to be your own superhero sometimes. And you also have to know that every day is the Super Bowl. Every day is the Super Bowl. And if you're waiting for a date on a calendar to get excited, your life is passing you by.
Man. I like this.
See?
And
yeah. I mean, we speak the same language. I made a couple of videos last year talking about why do you hate Mondays? How are you hating 1/7 of your entire week? Every single Monday it's coming, like don't hate this one day, arbitrary day. If you wake up getting excited for it, and now for me, that was the shift a couple of years ago too. Get excited for this day, get up, do something worthwhile. At the very least, I mean, you guys follow me a little bit. On my socials, it's like a morning video. And that's like, for me, that was for me. That's for me today. That's for me today. That's my little bit of legacy, my 20 seconds, my 30 seconds.
But we all need to hear that. We all need that. We all need somebody in our corner that's giving us that too.
Right. And for me, it's like, be it. Like you said, be your hero, right? Be that person you're looking for. Love that.
Yeah. Man. Y'all went deep with it.
Yeah, I only want to go deep. Like that's my whole thing. I'm
Well,
trying to make those roots as deep as I possibly can.
well, let me ask then, because I'm curious, what struggles did you have leaving active duty? I mean, I know you mentioned it's hard for that financial security, and I don't want to gloss over it because financials are so big. We just talked about it this week. Finances are so big that we all can get lost in that easily. So I don't want to gloss over it, but you did mention that was one thing. What other struggles did you have, like transitioning from active duty?
Yeah, I think you're serving at the highest power that you understand. To serve your country and to serve your brothers and sisters and to put your name on the line, for me to accept that there was something more, mind blown, brother, mind blown. That was a hard thing to accept. I was putting that uniform on, like I was going out there it may be the last. And it's a different approach, obviously, in the Coast Guard, but we still have very dangerous things we do. But to accept that there was a higher calling, that was big, man, for me. I live my life based off the purpose, based off my mission, based off what I need to do. And when you have to transition that mission away from something that, that's a big thing. Because you lose your discipline is extremely important, and passion and motivation, all those things are fleeting. They come and go. So you have to create something that's, again, go back to that definition of foundation, that depth that's going to keep you going. My journey's been hard every day. I've accepted that, and it's going to be, and some people can look at, well, why do you with that mindset, you're making it hard. Like, no, not necessarily. I'm just ready for whatever comes. I love it. I mean, that's the way I am. I want to be in the fire. So transitioning, I had to make sure that my mission was strong enough. It wasn't because I was bored, because I didn't like my supervisor, or, it's like I had to move somewhere. My family didn't want to move or whatever. It was, for me, my mission had to be big enough. So that was a big one. And then I think afterwards, it was making sure that I stayed on task, making sure that I was following through with what was most important in that day. Because once you get to a certain point, I mean, you're your own boss, especially if you're going out and starting your own business. Like, you better be motivated.
You got to be.
You better put yourself in an actual responsible and functional way. And for me, I'm not a paperwork guy, but I've systemized my whole business at this point. We're ready to recreate. Like we talked before, we'll talk in maybe more in a minute. But if you don't systemize a business, you're going to eventually burn out.
Mhm.
It's going to happen. You might be really good at running for a while, but eventually you're not going to be able to keep up if you want to create that business. And it might be your own systems. I'm not saying you have to hire other people for it, but you need to at least make it doable. My 84 hours a week wasn't going to work very long. I was
Mhm.
going to have a heart attack at some point
Yeah.
and not even realize it probably. I mean, I would probably keep going. Like, did you have a heart attack 10 years ago? No, I didn't. I didn't know that. It's probably just because I had too much coffee that day and kept running, And, I mean, so for me, it was like making sure my mission was strong enough. When it comes back to the financial stuff too, I made sure that I created a parachute. I worked 2 jobs. I was working 2 jobs for 4.5 years before I left. I still work 2 jobs. I'm still in the reserves. I mean, I'm going this weekend. I mean, the amount of stuff I've done this week, I could already tell you, but I mean, I'm rolling. I mean, so I woke up at 7 this morning, did an assessment, had a meeting with the physical therapist. Tomorrow I do a coaches meeting with my team. I got to get ready for the reserve weekend. So I'll be going in to do my drilling Saturday morning through Sunday afternoon, all that stuff. But you got to make sure that you create that parachute that if something does go wrong, it's not the end of the world. Whatever that is for you, whether that's, okay, I'm going to move back with my parents and they're going to help me, whether that's I have a savings account that's 6 weeks or, 6 months worth of my income, or finding a job that you're really motivated about, finding something that you're excited about. I think that's the biggest transition, once you get past like the mission part of it, like knowing that the mission's big enough for you to want to be out. And for me, I'm kind of going back now and looking at VA and stuff and going back and looking at my ratings and things. And a lot of my stuff's mental. So, and I hadn't talked about it a whole lot. So that's my problem right now
Mm.
is how do I go back and I mean, I don't want to get emotional or whatever, but how do I go back and say, like, this is what I've been through. I couldn't tell anybody, and like, but I need it fixed.
Yeah.
Like, and like coping mechanisms and all that thing and all that stuff. So like coming back now, this is my new journey. It's like, how do I get back into the system and explain to them, like, no, I didn't go to a doctor to talk about this. I'm not going to tell my bosses that I'm dealing with this stuff whenever I have to produce and all these things. And I've been open since, I left the reserves about my anxiety and depression and all the stuff I've dealt with. And so trying to figure out how to go back in and get some rating and making sure I'm getting taken care of in that way. And I go talk to somebody in a healthy way. I think it's a big thing too, but I'm not scared of it. I'm not afraid of it. And I'm not ashamed. I think that's a big thing for me, is I've always said, I grew up with that type of stuff. Like I said, exercise was my medicine, but it's gotten worse. And it started to hit in weird times. I used to always be able to understand it and why it was there. Now it's like I'll be in the middle of a conversation. It's just like, boom, like, and I'll kind of lose it for a second and come back in. And I remember the first time it happened in a very conscious way. I was at a concert, we were hanging out, it was really great atmosphere. And all of a sudden I was like, not there. And it was like, oh, dang. I came back. I didn't freak out or anything, but I knew something had happened. And so coming back to tell somebody that and explain that, I think that's been the hardest thing lately, is like going back into that.
Are you speaking to someone, Kurt?
No, not yet.
Man, you
But
need to.
I know.
It's
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you what. I think a lot of us as in, well, I think we spoke on it a little bit yesterday too, was, we were trained all our life to not ask for help. And to say that you had an issue was a serious problem in their eyes. But now that, we like to speak on it and speak of it to let people know that it's okay not to be okay, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I talk about it a lot. I just haven't gone to anybody professional and said, hey, like, here's what I'm dealing with. But I've done so much deep work personally. And me and you talked a little bit about this when we first met. Like, I'm daily meditating. I'm daily writing down my thoughts. Me and my wife are extremely close. And so that I've been advocating for veteran suicide for a long time. I just saw today we had another Coast Guard chief warrant officer, I think, and they didn't fully, say it yet, but it's kind of what it looks like. But he was over Pat Forsois over in Bahrain. But yeah, so that type of stuff, I know So I think that's the biggest fight so far that I've come back to. Coming out for me, I was pretty motivated. I was excited. I
Mhm.
really do believe God called me to this mission. So it wasn't as big of a jump for me, even though it was 13 and a half years in. I was 6.5 years away from full retirement.
Wow.
But I truly believe God called me what I do. I'm faith driven,
Mhm.
and I wasn't walking in faith when I was in the Coast Guard in a lot of ways. And I just knew that wasn't who I was. And I looked around at the people I was working with and they weren't happy. They didn't like what they were doing. Everybody was close to retirement, was disgruntled and mad and had all the worst habits. And,
Seen that.
and I was like, I don't want to be that guy,
Yeah.
and I'm willing to risk a retirement to go after something that'll change other people's lives and change my life. And I think that was a big deal. So, and I just recently, put in with the AMVETS and Wounded Warrior and trying to see what path there. It's been a lot
Yeah.
slower than I'd like, but
I'd like to give a little plug too. There's dang it, man, I lost it. Not helping a hero. Give an hour, giveanhour.com, or I think it might be giveanhour.org. I've used them before where you can sign up and just be able to talk to someone, and it's free if you don't have any insurance. So if you're out there and you're listening and you're looking for someone to talk to, that's one way to go. But don't forget that suicide hotline is still out there. It's 988 press 1 if you're a military veteran. But you can call and you can text it 988 if you're military veteran plus 1. It's very important. And I love to hear you talking about this. And I want to make sure that I recap that. One of the things is make sure you have a good parachute, make sure your finances align. We talk about it and no one really takes advantage of it. So seek education or find someone who can help you get this budget down because 50% of Americans don't have a budget, and it's
let me tell you something about that real quick too, that, I base everything off of what I value. And I realized how much I valued my time. And if I was wasting it on new shoes or I was wasting it on, a cup of coffee or I was wasting it on a lunch, I realized quickly that I was wasting my time. And that was a big thing for me is I stopped wasting money. I didn't buy extra clothes. I didn't buy, that extra meal. I didn't buy that extra cup of coffee. And every time I would transition money into my savings. So just making it a value-based decision for me literally made a massive impact on the way I saw my money. And then I could actually start saving a lot safer.
love that. And
Yeah.
so the other thing you mentioned too was your mission. You had a pretty strong mission, which allowed you to kind of focus on what you have next. And the last thing is we hear it all the time, but when folks get out, you're okay for a little while, and then all of a sudden that box starts to open because we were like, we didn't deal with it. We didn't deal with it. We didn't deal with it, which is why we preach so much. Make sure you talk to someone. Make sure you get it. Man, Sergeant Cruz was he came on our podcast. He was my platoon sergeant. Was amazing about that. Go see help. Get something. Go talk to somebody. But it takes that type of leader to say, "Hey, let's make sure you're getting this documented. Like, make sure you're getting okay, because that stigma is still there, and I don't think it won't go away too easily either."
No, I'm definitely gonna, we get further into the VA process and stuff, go sit down and kind of talk with them about it. But still being in the reserves too, it's a little bit, everybody says we're good. That's what they tell us. They tell us you can go and apply, it's not gonna cause any issues or have any effects. But I mean, my history isn't great.
Hmm.
I haven't been masted twice in my first 9 months. I've survived. I've been very blessed. I've been enlisted person of the year for my unit in 2013 and all these other things, but you never know. And I'm less than 2 years away from full
Yeah.
retirement. So it's like
I feel
it's,
you.
it's a
I
little bit of
understand.
a balance.
Do you think coming out of active duty and go and still maintaining your reserve and going into the reserve helped you with that transition from active duty to civilian life?
100%. I think if you have the capacity, do it. And I
Yeah.
think if you don't have the capacity, find it. I mean, as long as you're not like just completely shot, there's a lot of people that are. I mean, you've been through too much to be able to look at that uniform another day. And I understand that. But in the Coast Guard, it's not necessarily that case very often.
Yeah.
So make the time, and we are begging for people in the Coast Guard Reserve, tell them Jake Tryon sent you because I'm going to get $1,000 in an LOC. So go sign up today.
Yeah. Hey, William's interested.
I'm serious though, because it's like I still have my retirement at 60 if I live that long, and if I don't, it's not my problem anymore. And then on top of that is I've got good insurance for less than $400 a month for my family, and those things are important. And I get to put my uniform on and go serve my country still. I still get to follow my
Amen.
mission.
Probably
Hey.
put it back on now.
Yeah.
I could probably put it back on.
You'll be good. You'll be all right.
No, I could. Yeah. I just I had to hit the gym a little bit.
Yeah.
It's part of the parachute. Though. It's kind of like we said, that was part of my parachute. I knew I could always, and I can go on active duty orders pretty easily in the Coast Guard.
Yeah.
They're always for now because of the way they do the parental leave program. Like once a month, they send out a whole list of like 35 offers for people to go different places and take active duty orders.
Oh, like that every month.
Every month, and
Wow.
I could just jump on it, and if I didn't have my own business that was like in place, I'd probably have done it by now. I would have taken, orders in Panama City. I'd taken orders in, Guam. Bring my wife, she works from a computer. Boom. It's like we're hanging out in Guam and I'm making, $80,000 a year now. Like, I think there's a lot of benefits to that stuff if you have the capacity. Now, Coast Guard doesn't get deployed like very often overseas in the reserves. It's almost like a choice. So I see it in other branches. It's a lot harder. So I don't want to discount that.
Right.
No, but what y'all do, I feel like is a lot is underappreciated because a lot of people don't think, they think of I don't know
The four of us.
Yes.
Hey, we
The
have the
Marines
Space
Army.
Force now. So we,
So y'all learned.
There
Y'all
you
learned
go.
yeah,
That's right.
we just jumped up a little bit.
That's right.
Thank you, Space Force.
Yeah.
Yeah, they came out with their song last year too, right?
Yeah, I've
They have
heard
a
it.
song
Yeah.
that,
I haven't-
You go to
I-
those events and you're always trying to figure out which one is it.
Yeah. I
It
don't
sounds like Star Wars, that kind of stuff.
I still have you met anyone in the Space Force yet?
briefly.
You
That's-
have?
Yeah.
That's the whole thing, bro.
Yeah.
You're not gonna
They're in
meet them, man.
space, bro.
They're,
No.
they're, yeah, you're not gonna meet 'em. Like, come on. Could they tell you if they were in the Space Force?
They were shut down. Electricity goes
Yeah,
out. We're
exactly.
just- yeah.
They come in here. We're in the Space Force. Sorry.
You mentioned us.
Yeah.
That'll be a good goal. We're gonna find a Space Force veteran one day.
There you go.
Be around that long.
the aliens. Just kidding. Just kidding. Man, so you're married.
I am
and
married.
Do you have kids?
No kids.
No kids.
Nope.
You mind me asking how old you are?
I am 38. I'll be 39 this year.
Oh, bro, yay. I was gonna say because
I don't look that way.
No. He looks real young. And you speak older, if that makes any sense.
No,
I don't
it's
if
like
that
I
makes any
said,
sense.
I do a lot of work, man.
Yeah.
We could talk a lot about a lot of stuff.
Mhm.
And I'm faith driven for one. There's much more to this life,
Mhm.
and it's important to understand that you have to treat this life to its fullest extent to get to the level that you deserve in the next life, in my belief. So you can't discount today. You can't discount this body. You can't discount these opportunities. But if you start to tie your value and you start to tie, what drives you to in the secular world, and in my opinion, you get led down, kind of dead end roads. And so for me, again, kind of going back to that, I will not be the same person tomorrow I am today. I
I love
believe
it.
that.
I
I
love it.
truly believe that. And it's not about what I own. It's not about what I drive. It's not about my bank account. It's about what I've experienced today with y'all. This conversation, this ability to share passion for service, passion for the mission. That is important. The people I helped this morning, I did an assessment for a lady who's 78 years old, moved here from the Philippines, and my wife's actually Filipino. So there are some connections and stuff. So she was telling me how, like, oh no, I haven't done a whole lot in my life. I was like, you moved across the world.
Or, yeah.
These people can't even leave League City. I mean, I try to get them to drive 6 miles to my gym and it's too far for them. Like, you created 4 human beings. There's nothing more beautiful on this earth than creating humans. That's the truth. Mothers are the most important thing on this earth, period, in my opinion. And, I just told her that, like, very seriously and very direct. Like, you have to understand what you've done. You've made a ripple on the existence and the energy that will move on beyond us for the rest of existence.
Yeah. Jeez.
And he was a part of it for sure.
Wow.
And I think just making sure that you connect with much more than looking at what's in front of you and looking at the nuts and bolts. And, I'm always trying to find out what's next in a good way, and trying to minimize my ego as much as I possibly can. And that's impossible to do completely. And I don't think it's healthy, honestly, completely. But you leave yourself open to experiencing more from people
Mhm.
when you operate that way, when your heart's completely open, when your mind's completely in the moment. And it's like, I told you, I put my cell phone over there and put it on silent for a minute.
Hmm.
I mean, for this whole podcast for a reason. I don't want to be where I don't want to be. I start every presentation I do. I start every meeting with my coaches. If you don't want to be here, please tell me now, and then I'm not going to be upset. If you feel like your life will be better served in a different place or on a different purpose, please tell me that. Let's move on. I don't want you to waste your life. That, to me, that's the worst thing in the world. Like, that hurts my heart for you to not want to be where you're at. Go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And that was
Well,
part of the reason why I left the Coast Guard too, is like, my heart's not here.
Mm.
I want to serve my people. I want to serve my country, but there's something different. And, and like you said, talking like I'm older, I think it has a lot to do with just trying to go as deep as I can every day. Like,
Right.
I'm just, as soon as I wake up, and, there's just so much to experience and there's so much to absorb, but also you've got to take complete ownership. And I don't care what anybody thinks of me. I mean, I say that in the best way possible.
Yeah.
I'm going to love to the best of my ability. My goal is to find deeper ways to love and show affection and be connected. And if you don't enjoy that, or my energy is infectious, or I'm too loud, or all those things, I'm sorry. That's who I am. I'm not going to apologize for being the person that I am. And a lot of people always are trying to adapt to everyone. And I want to be all that I want to be. And if I want to learn something new today, I'm going to learn it. If I want to start a new business, I'm going to start it. If I want to go over here and do this, I'm going to do it. And, I have the energy. I want to go out on fire. I don't want to just, be rolled out of this, life. I want to be, wrestling an alligator in the middle of a, tornado, while my shirt's on fire. Like, I mean,
well lifted.
exactly. I won't need weights then. I'll just
Yeah.
be fighting that gator, So, I think that's the thing, is like, I want more out of my days, man. I just want it.
And it's not like doing more.
No.
It's right. It's not filling my days with meetings or
No.
frivolous stuff. It's getting more from where I am right
So
now.
like I said, I woke up early today. Like, so I only coach I'll tell you what my day was like today. So I only coach in the evenings now at the gym, a couple evenings a week, because we're working on that next step. Where are we going next? So I'm putting a lot of time and energy into doing research on new markets and tools and how to grow and how to expand and franchise and license, that type of stuff. But I have been working with this physical therapist at Methodist Clear Lake that's right down the road from us. I've been working, one of our clients had shoulder surgery, and they've been asking me to come in and talk to what we're doing for him, because his actual muscle tissue is in such good shape. They said, "Who's your trainer? What are you doing?" So they called us in, and it's not just me, it's my gym. I only literally work 2 to 3 days a week now. It's all my coaches. It's the system we built. That's what's important. But so he met with me for an hour and a half today.
Wow.
To get a physical therapist to do that, and he's the director of part of that clinic over there. For him to come and sit at my gym for an hour and a half, that's mind blowing.
Hmm.
That's what I've been dreaming of since 2013. So I woke up early, got in there, and then I scheduled an assessment for that lady. I said, the Filipino lady, at 9:30, did her assessment. Then I went home. I took a nap. That's early for me. I went home. I rinsed off. I put the cold therapy on my bed, and I put on Headspace and laid there for 45 minutes. I got up, went for a run and a workout. I drove up here. Traffic's a lot different than I thought coming across 518.
Man, it feels like
It is.
when we driving down the day, like we go eat somewhere or something like that. I'm like, man, these people got jobs, bro.
It's nuts.
Why is everybody driving?
It never stops.
Yeah.
Right? So like, I put that time in my day to do that, but meditation is a part of my morning. I read my daily Stoic and
Cool.
that type of stuff. And so yeah, I went deeper into how, and I was trying to think of how I would connect deeper with you guys when I got here. That's been on my mind all day. Like, how could I open up as much as I could? And it comes back to love for me. And I try to maintain an open heart. And when you've been hurt, that's the hardest thing. And that's where you're hurt the most. And I learned really quickly that nobody's going to be able to meet me where I'm at, because they just don't have that ability to come to that direct energy level. And that's okay. That's perfectly normal. But I think we fail a lot of times when we expect people to meet us exactly where we're at, when nobody can be you.
Right.
Nobody can reproduce your energy in the way you
Mhm.
expect. But as long as you stay open and you keep your heart open, in that way, the connections will be insane.
Yeah, that's it, man. I don't think I've ever. I don't want people to be me or be like me. I've always said I want people to be better than everything I've done. You can do better, and I stress that to everybody. Don't try to be like somebody. Be better than that. Like you say, I'm not trying to be the same person I am today, tomorrow.
No,
Mhm.
Yeah.
you don't
I-
want to be.
Right. I feel that, man.
Well, that's that. You're right. But I want to make sure we're mindful of your time. So just to wrap things up with a couple of questions, what's a good way for folks to keep in touch with you? You
So
know,
for me, a lot of my Facebook, my personal business Facebook, so it's Jake Tryon Fitness Professional. You can look that up, or you can go find my business, TriFit Gym, on Facebook as well. We do a lot of Facebook mainly because our demographics, that older demographic, and it's easier for me. I don't want to scroll pictures of people all day, so I don't even have an Instagram.
Yeah.
I'm probably the only fitness professional under 40 that doesn't have an Instagram. Um, but again, it's
subject to change.
yeah, for me, it's about what I value. So I would go there, come to the gym, come check us out. We're over at 2417 Bay Area Boulevard here in Clear Lake, 7708058 across from Space Center. We are looking to franchise and license really quickly and go to our next location. So that's
Very
kind of
cool.
where we're at this point. It's uncanny the way that people's lives are changed just through a little bit of movement, support, and love. And the way I coach my coaches is caring, connecting, and coaching. That's what we do. If we can't care for you and connect with you, we can't coach you. And so I say, just if you're interested in learning more, interested in hearing more, I do a lot on Facebook. I post on LinkedIn quite a bit, and really just trying to share my heart. And you're going to see a lot of what you've heard today.
Mhm.
Very, very deep reflection of how to live this existence at the highest level possible that I believe is high to my personal value base, and I don't try to judge anybody in that way, and whatever you want to believe, I'd love to have a conversation. I think that's, just like we've done today, this is extremely powerful
Yeah.
to be able to open up to the conversation. So, be willing to allow a new idea every now and then.
So I want to take the time to acknowledge you and thank you for coming on our show. We've been, missed connections for a little while. Getting us into the studio feels phenomenal to be here and really have your presence. So your presence is felt. We really appreciate you going deep, and acknowledge you for all the things that you do, because you really are out in the community, especially the veteran community, serving, and you're a light and an example for all of us. And I love that we're connected, and even more so now. I've said that a few times. Like when a guest comes on, I feel more connected to them as a person, because that hour of deep conversation with no distractions is really quite phenomenal. So my final question to you is, what does Charlie Mike mean to you?
Own your life. Get up every day, take responsibility, be willing to adapt, but know your mission. What is it? Define it. Know it can change, but continuously define your mission.
Wow.
Love that, man.
Man, I got the chills, bro.
And Raul has the hard part of wrapping this all up.
Man, so first of all, Jake, we want to tell you thank you for coming on the show. We appreciate it. Thank you for your service to the United States and your Coast Guard, being in the Coast Guard. So, man, thank you for everything you do. Continue to be out there and hustle, man. I look forward to seeing you continue to shine. You keep in contact with us. Let us know how we can help you promote whatever you need. Just give us a holler. And you guys be sure to follow Jake, tryfitnessgym.com. I have it labeled on the bottom. And his personal coaching website is tryeffect.com. As always, guys, we appreciate everybody for tuning in. And you guys be sure to Charlie Mike